can. This is not even a test.
I have no doubt that this is going to go off with a hit, without a hitch, with a hitch. I don't know. Anyway, guys, we are here to talk about what some believe is one of the best Doctor Strange stories of all time. And as a Doctor Strange fan, this was Dalton's pick for us to check out. Mm-hmm. And it is Doctor Doom, Doctor Strange. This is the title too. I've never heard anybody call this Torment and Triumph and Torment. It's Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom, I can't even say the title.
Triumph and Torment.
Yeah. So you have to include their names as you say the title, I guess, for it to ring true. Mm. I remember reading this many years ago, and just thinking it's a badass story. It really is Marvel's best.
You've got Roger Stern. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was about to say I haven't read the comic in about 2 decades, maybe. It's been a long time. So when it came time to do this, and today I turned on, unfortunately, I'm being run around. I didn't finish it. I always think, okay, I'm going to finish it the day of. I didn't finish this. I underestimated how long it was. Mm. But my gosh, this is intense. I mean, this is a good freaking book. And I just got to the part, well, we'll get to it. I'm closing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. One of the reasons why this is one of the greatest stories that Doc was ever referenced in is because it's basically a dream team. You've got Roger Stern as the writer, and he's always been very good with Doctor Strange. I would give Steve Englehart a slight edge over him most of the time, but because this story exists, I might have to rethink that. And then you've got Mike Mignola before he was really a known quantity in comics doing the art, and obviously Mike Mignola can do supernatural stuff with the best of them. Cough, cough. Look at the BPRD Hellboy verse, etc. So it was sort of inevitable that this would be one of the best Doctor Strange stories, period. And then you throw in Doctor Doom into the mix and Mephisto into the mix, and well, we're off to the races. This is probably the most iconic of Doctor Strange's stories, which unfortunately is the result of him not really having that many super iconic stories. Most people, if you talk about iconic Doctor Strange stories, will talk about this or Into Shambhala or The Oath. Personally, I have a hate boner for The Oath. I hate The Oath so much.
I know, I mentioned it once before. Yeah, I kind of like this, and you sent me Anthrax.
Yeah, the reason why I hate The Oath is because it began this trend of hyperfixating on the former medical doctor part of Strange's character. And in my opinion, and the opinion of several other people I know who are Doctor Strange fans, the thing about Doctor Strange being a medical doctor is for most of his tenure as a character, it was implied that medicine was actually a suboptimal channeling of his tendencies to be a healer by Western medicine, and that being a sorcerer actually self-actualized him much better than it otherwise would have. So I personally hate whenever they hyperfixate on the doctor part and forgo the mystical aspect.
Certainly, it's kind of similar to the way I hate when people write Superman as a lonely alien. He has no idea. He has no true concept of Krypton except for what he reads in books.
Or what the info orbs and shit in the Fortress of Solitude tell him.
That's what I was referring to when I said reads in books.
Yeah.
But point being is, that's not the character. So the doctor part of Doctor Strange here, not the main focus.
And even then, it's worth noting that during the early modern period, you actually could get degrees in theology and in occultism and stuff. So even if you say he keeps the doctor title because medicine derp, you can also look at it as though he is now a doctor of sorcery in the same way John Dee or Cornelius Agrippa would have been.
Yep.
Okay, so
Proceed.
being one of the better stories, by the way, I always felt it weird when people when writers up the mystical with Doctor Doom. I always see him as a technical villain, not a mystical one. Obviously, he's got the chops. I do appreciate. Let's go through this just a little bit. Before we do, Dom, do you have any opening remarks? Something about the book itself?
Well, what I can say about this classic graphic novel is this is how you do not only a team-up story, but also reveal more about aspects of certain characters. In this case, with Victor,
Okay.
there's more to him.
Um,
There's more to him than meets the eye.
yes. Yeah, and that's one thing. Okay, before we get going, what do you think about that, Dom? Playing up the mystical aspects of Doctor Doom over the science.
Well, it certainly helps. Excuse me. It helps to really like flesh him out and see and understand why, how, and why. Well, like he's a master of not just like the various fields of science, and also like how he also his practice like in the occult, because it is tied to like what happened to him like in his youth, as well as like the events that led him into this quest of saving his mom's immortal soul from Mephisto.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. That's
And
the
with
thing. Like
that, let's
he's a Renaissance man.
with that, let's scroll through some of the story here. Hello to Dave Asanowitz and Dark Admiral. How are y'all doing today? We are okay. So the opening is just let's get to know the characters bit. All righty. By the way, yes, as you said, we've got our writers Roger Stern, Bill Mantlo, and Jerry Conway. Pencilers Mike Mignola, Kevin Nolan, and Gene Colan, with Mark Badger, Terry Austin, Tom Palmer, Mike Mignola, and Pete Cade Russell on inkers, Mark Badger, Bob Sharon, and Ben Sean and Petra Scotus on colors. All right. The whole thing
Serious
starts
dream
off,
team.
and
go ahead.
There you go. I'm almost thinking this might be a Dalton thing. Dalton, does Doctor Strange like Black Sabbath? What, you mean like the band?
I would suspect not, because Doc is very high class, old school, like transatlantic, Gilded Age sort of in terms of his personal taste. That's why he has the transatlantic accent, which he inherited from Vincent Price, which was one of the bases of his character. However, one thing we can say is that prog rockers like Pink Floyd were massive fans of him, because if you actually look at the album Saucer Full of Secrets, there are references to Doctor Strange not only on the cover, but also in the songs themselves of that particular album.
There you go. All righty.
So this thing opens cult being fans of Michael Moorcock and Ulrika Melnick.
Mm-hmm.
The book opens and you have I'm gonna so rely on you knowing the names. You have the Ancient One. He's talking to his servant here, and he's telling a story about how one time a stranger came along, and really Dr. Doom just went straight to, or at this point in time, Victor Von Doom went straight to beating the shit out of this sage sorcerer right away.
Mm-hmm.
Is you'll need to find your guru elsewhere. I do not teach. You think me an ignorant novice? And he starts grabbing him by the throat. I would think that there's a missing page where the doctor like transports him onto the moon or something, because and this is of course to show that Dr. Doom or Victor Von Doom, before he got the armor and everything, was brash and angered, and that's actually what led to his accident. I like the fact that they show a clean-faced Dr. Doom with a minor scar. Mm-hmm. He even says so. You have suffered some minor injury in your quest for knowledge, and he goes nuts. So he says, I don't teach, but you're going to find some people at the top of a hill. And soon after, we get Doctor Strange coming in, who actually tends to the health of the Ancient One. So you see
Yes.
the difference in personalities and personality is the only word I've got for it. It's not
Which is temperament
So
might be a better word. But
temperament. That's what I was looking.
Yeah, it's interesting to note that had the Ancient One met Strange at the beginning of his arc, when he was still basically doing Dr. House before Dr. House was a thing, their personalities and their personal failings would have been very similar. The difference is the universe basically walloped Strange upside the head repeatedly and went, "You must, if you want this life of yours back, you have to earn it back." Whereas Doom does not take the hint. No matter how badly the universe beats him down, Doom's ego will not yield, and I think that's a significant thing, not only for the differences in how they handle things, but also to note how similar they were to begin with, and what makes Strange a better person is his willingness to go, okay, maybe I'm the asshole, maybe I'm the one who fucked up, and therefore need to redeem myself. Whereas Doom will never insinuate that he has ever done anything wrong ever.
And then, of course,
it's similar to Lex Luthor of DC Comics. I was like, what Victor and Lex, like, they have the potential, like, to use their gifts, be it something like that's intuitive to them, or they learned them over the years. Like, they could have been like great men to really better the world, like, with their skills. However, due to their own individual hubris's, like, they're unable to do so, which caused them to be the villains that we all know.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Doom goes up the mountain and finds the people he was supposed to learn magic from, and it says even here he stayed until he had learned all that men knew of the Order knew, until he had become their master. And they are the ones that created the armor for him. At the end, it says it's time for the mask. The guy says it hasn't cooled completely. And the others say, "No more, my brother. He will tolerate no further delays. Such a man cannot wait as others can." Putting on a hot metal mask onto his face, of course, would have done worse damage than
letting it cool like a sane person.
Right?
And he swears nobody will ever see his face again. And Victor Von Doom is dead. And, of course, in his place now stands Dr. Doom. And he meets up with his we return to him and his the aged one and his servant. Big light shines on. He says, every 100 years certain stars fall into alignment and their combined light shines into my dwelling, but the light is only a sign, youngster, an indication that the blessed time of the Vishante is upon us, and in that time my mind is once again what it was. And we see the Ancient One walk off, and there you go. He goes to the temple of the Vishante.
Mm-hmm.
All righty, and that is when we get
to maintain his title as the Sorcerer Supreme is the implication there.
And here he puts out a calling, and that's what this is right here, where we see, from Yucatan, Honshu, Great Britain, Atlantis, and then of course Latveria. Now this part got me. Dr. Doom says to his little recorder bot, "Listen, do you hear it? Like a whisper on the winds." The recorder bot, auditory check reveals only normal background noise, master. Silence! Dude, you asked him a freaking question.
Right?
So I must concentrate. I must not miss a word. Yeah, he's like mad because he's answering the question and everything. So
also keep in mind, it's a robot and can only do what you've programmed it to do. So if you want it to be silent, you maybe should have adjusted its programming accordingly there, Victor.
Exactly.
But again, here we see the egotistical ambition and arrogance of Doom, never brocking any dissent, even from his own creations, apparently.
And then we see the Ancient One getting a hold of Doctor Strange. I like the fact, we see in the movies, Doctor Strange does that twirly thing, a portal open, he walks through, he's wherever he needs to be. But here, he goes, oh my gosh, that wasn't just a dream. That was actually a message from the Ancient One. And he books a plane. He says, yes, this is Dr. Stephen Strange. I must get to Indonesia as quickly as possible. What's the earliest flight I could catch to Jakarta? He doesn't do the little transport thing or anything.
No.
Is he capable of doing that, Dalton, in the MCU at this point?
At this point, yes, he would, but it would have been extremely costly for him to portal. So my guess is he's saving his. My guess is he knows that the trial of the Vishante has come upon them, and that he needs to save his strength so as to actually earn his place, rather than wasting it on the costly portal spell.
I miss the days when superheroes got tired by using their powers. You used to see it in the X-Men a lot, where it was an expenditure of energy, and therefore, if Kurt bamfed, bam, he would have to rest because he was actually tired
and take a breather.
Yeah, because it's a physical and mental reflex to trigger the bamfing.
So here, of course,
in the DC universe as well.
Yeah, same thing. I think a lot of the comics have gotten Golden Age style overpowered, and we see Doctor Strange going through the planes, trains, and automobiles, and then of course the adventurer walking through the jungle. Just to get to the Temple of the Three. And I got to tell you, I dig on this. This is a great image right here.
Mm-hmm. It actually reminds me of one of the temples that I went to with my family when we went to Southeast Asia. And I'll tell you that I was in Cambodia. Yes, and during my reread and seeing the temple again, it reminded me of one of the temples that I went to with the family.
Question.
That's what it was.
Question, because I'm curious about this. How well off is your family? Because I would think you'd have to be fairly well off to plan such a vacation.
Not really. I did it. I went and I stayed in Thailand for a few months on about $4,000. I saved up.
Well, okay, yeah, currency exchange rates being what they are, I guess it didn't factor.
The big thing is the flight, the airplane ticket is the big thing. You can even I found hotels for $10 a night. So that wasn't even and I got lucky though, of course, because of other situations that allowed me to not have to be in a hotel.
But anyway, back to
that's the point.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, what I will appreciate about this sequence is after Stephen arrives to the trial, he has reacquainted himself with old friends and acquaintances within the mystic side of the Marvel universe, and each of us, I get a feel of who they are individually as characters.
Yeah, I kind of think that this really should be the side characters. I get it, Wong and such, or Clea, but wouldn't he also have, interactions with these? One thing that a lot of people at the time when this first came out mentioned, where's Dr. Voodoo? He was a character.
Yeah, with Brother Voodoo.
They didn't include Dr. Voodoo in this.
But here's the thing, and this is why Brother Voodoo becoming the Sorcerer Supreme while Doc was MIA for a bit annoys me. The Voodoo practitioners of the Marvel Universe have their own sort of ranking system. That's why Jericho, Drum, and his brother Daniel were referred to as the Hungan Supreme. Hungan being the benevolent voodoo priest term, and thus it does make sense why they're not there, in the same way as it makes sense why Agatha Harkness and company aren't there, because this is a battle for sorcerers specifically, not any old practitioner.
So
exactly.
It's not every practitioner of magic. It's a specific kind of magic.
It's specifically sorcery that the Vishante oversee.
In other words, whereas back then, in the Marvel universe, there was a variety. variety of different mystical schools, and they're not treated as the same.
Yeah.
Which is why like in Bendis' New Avengers, which in hindsight is overrated, like how he handled the whole thing of making Brother Voodoo like a Doctor Strange doesn't make sense because it goes against what's been established previously.
Yeah, because it pretends that there is no distinction between voodoo practitioners and sorcerers, or voodoo practitioners and witches, and so on.
Hey, Black
And
Spiders, what's going on?
Hey, Black Spider.
We're talking about Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom, Triumph, and Torment. It's a very good graphic novel. And yeah, we're just discussing it. And so, yeah, it's kind of like story time. At the end of the day, I'll give homework for next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about runes from the Ultraverse, right? That was the Ultraverse from the two.
yeah, that was Dom's pick.
Yep.
That's correct.
So yeah, you could go get comics online or read comics online if you want to check it out. Read the first 4 issues. That's what we're going to be talking about next week. For this week, we're talking about Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom, Triumph, and Torment. It's just, we're a comic book channel. I love doing the comic book cover rankings, but let's talk about some comics,
Yeah.
It's also a retrospective, going over like each comic book series and or graphic novels, see if they hold up or not so much.
Anyway, back to the story.
Yes, we see. By the way, I've got to take off in about 10 minutes here. Sorry.
That's why I was like, we should move along a little bit.
Okay, yeah. I did share out. If you guys could share, if you guys could get the read comics or maybe share your screen or something like that. I don't know if you can on your phones. Otherwise, I'll put up the cover.
I know my phone can't. I don't know about Dom, depending on what model of phone he has.
If that's the case, I'll put the cover up and you guys just talk about the story when I'm gone. That being said, I can talk at least up until the point where you got to leave.
So we should move along.
All right. So what's going on here is the Ancient One is saying, okay, we're all here. It's a contest of sorcery, which would sorely test their skills to determining knowledge one among them as Sorcerer Supreme. And everybody's like, whoa, I didn't travel 1,000 miles to be part of some game, compete for a mere title. It sounds demeaning. And some are like, such a title is the ultimate honor. But Dr. Doom says, titles and honors, I have a plenty, Genghis. There must be more behind your summons than that. He says, indeed, as I said when I gave the call, there is a question of power and of destiny to be settled. And Doctor Strange notices the light that's coming up behind Genghis, the Ancient One, and we see that it is the Vishante. And Doctor Strange saying he actually seen this before, and they say, we are Oshtur, Hogath, and Agomotto. We are the undying Vishante. Many of you have spoken our names, calling upon us to empower your spells, and we have answered. Now we give you the greatest mystics to walk the earth, the chance to find among yourselves the spear Sorcerer Supreme. Once that mage is found, a boon will be granted and lives will be changed. This we have seen. But any changes must be of your own doing and by your own free will. No mortal shall be forced to take part. Thus is not the way of the Vishante. And there you go. He says, okay, let's get started. And they're asked, does anybody want to leave? Nope. And one of the wizards says, I, Khalid and Shalan, have an objection. There is one among us who is not a mystic true. And he points to Doom and says he's a technical guy. He's got armor. He's got gadgets. And Dr. Doom says, okay, I'll take off my gauntlets. That way my offenses and defensive electronics are offline. Everybody says, fine. And he goes, then the moment has arrived, Vishante, we are ready. And basically the contest is they put the Ancient One in crystal, and now all the sorcerers have to do is get him out of that crystal. He pauses for comment by Dominic or Dalton.
Well, it's interesting to see again. This is kind of an extension of Doom's ego. He can't be satisfied with one path. He can't be satisfied with one branch of skill. He can't be satisfied with one title or one set of titles. He has to double dip. And so in a sense, he has handicapped himself, because while somebody like Doctor Strange devoted himself entirely to sorcery, the ego of Doctor Doom will not countenance, no, I'm not going to be settling for just one path in life. I'm going to do both. I'm going to be science and magic. And that's precisely what creates the disadvantage for Doom here, despite the fact that in terms of sorcery skills, Doom and Strange are relatively evenly matched, at least at this point in the continuity. But because Doom didn't devote himself entirely, he's splitting his skills, and as such, Strange gets the upper hand.
Which we see. Right away, of course, this guy goes, okay, I'll do it. And he blasts the crystals, and it falls back at him. And he freezes in place. And that just starts a free-for-all. And no, we all got to strike together. The older people have the knowledge, and they keep blasting at everything until we actually see Dr. Doom, however. He took away all of his offense and defensive weapons, but his sensory electronics are still active. So he's sitting back, he's staying back, and he's examining what's going on. And
which, I mean, to be fair, it is smart of him to do, but frankly, they all should be smart enough to know you can't just brute force or power your way through this, because it's a question of magical skill specifically.
And endurance.
Yeah. But they do start off like the very last movie of Harry Potter, where like in the earlier ones you see, oh, I'm going to conjure a dragon and let me throw a big water ball at you, or something like that. Yeah. And then in Deathly Hallows,
it's just pew 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 pew. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Here they do this. So all of the sorcerers that got knocked down are now in control.
Under thrall.
Yes, under the thrall of the Vishante. And one by one, everyone gets knocked out until Dr. Strange is like, wait a second, am I the only one left? And Dr. Doom says, no, you are not, Doctor. And we see the two of them taking out the rest of all of the mind-controlled wizards until all of them are done. And Dr. Doom says, yep, looks like I got to defeat one more guy. And he attacks Dr. Strange. And that doesn't go too well for him. I love that fact. Thank you. Because he tries the, let me see if Crimson Bands of Sidorak. Okay. Yes. And he bounces back. And he even says the Crimson Band will hold the mightiest of foes at bay, Doom, but only if they're properly conjured. If not, their power could be broken and they're turned against the wielder, which, of course, is what you were talking about. Doctor Strange knows these spells in and out, and Dr. Doom has a cursory knowledge.
Well, I don't want to go so far as to say he only has a cursory knowledge. I mean, it is worth noting that he is the second, the runner-up here. But I think what the implication is supposed to be is Strange devoted himself entirely to that one study, that one field of sorcery, whereas Doom can't do that because whether it be ambition or ego or both, he can't submit himself to one path. He has to double dip and triple dip because he simply can't countenance the idea that he can't be good at everything all at once.
All right. Now, by the way, Mada Nui is mentioning, mastering more than one. Oh, no, hold on. Wrong one. Magic just seems like a weird gray area between a skill and a power. I would have to agree, because not everyone seems to be able to do sorcery the same way as other people can. So it seems like some people are more sensitive to it.
Here's the thing, though. Doctor Strange is a perfect example, or at least he was at this point in the continuity, of someone with no innate gift for sorcery mastering sorcery. There are people who have natural predilections or natural predispositions towards it, like Wanda, for example. She's bound to Mephisto or Chthon, depending on at what point in continuity we're talking here. and that's where she gets her chaos magic and stuff from. But it, at least at this time in history, while there's a way, it's similar to, anyone can learn how to play an instrument, but some people have perfect pitch and others don't, kind of thing.
Yeah, there's
I've always seen it as anyone can use magic, but it's still a highly difficult, highly intricate skill, and so you have to devote yourself to it pretty significantly in order to master it fully.
right.
Which is why it's worth noting that despite the fact that, at least at this point in continuity, despite the fact that Strange has no innate gift for sorcery, he is the Sorcerer Supreme, not Wanda, not Topaz, not anybody else who has a natural gift for sorcery, but the guy who just devoted himself to it so completely that it basically became his whole life.
All right. So we see he knocks out Doom, and Doctor Strange decides that his astral body is the best way to go about it, and he uses the all-seeing eye of Agomotto, and he discovers, and he examines the crystal, and he discovers all he has to do is ask. Aged Genghis, I pray you come forth. As you wish, so shall it be. Let all be released. Do you all see now calm and circumspection are as much part of greatness as raw power and celerity?
Yep,
never heard of that word until
that's the point. Everyone was trying to brute force it or to out magic the Vishante, when what was really needed was someone humble enough to go, wait a minute, let me think about this for a second.
Please. Yeah, and we find out that time was different for everybody, for how long they were fighting. I thought that was a cool thing. So Doctor Strange gets the title of Sorcerer Supreme. Everybody congratulates. You do me the honor, my friend, but this is really not necessarily the only title to which I aspire is Master of the Mystic Arts. And Vishante say, accept the judgment of your fellow mystics, Stephen Strange. You have endured great trials in your life and overcome forces beyond mortal reckoning. You have proven yourself a worthy successor to the Ancient One. Greater your skills, greater your responsibilities. Accept your role in the life and know that the Vishante smile upon you. And he says, the Ancient One says, there remains but one matter to be settled. You have been judged Sorcerer Supreme. Now is the custom. A boon must be granted. And Doctor Strange says, look, I don't need anything. And he says, no. You have to give a wish to second place, which is
to whom much is granted, much is required, basically.
Yep.
And Doctor Strange's
reaction to this is,
go ahead.
Steven's reaction to this is natural, because Doom has faced off every hero in the Marvel universe, so it makes sense for him to assume that he wants to use Steven's his abilities to in a bit of once again world conquest until he realizes that what Doom has, Doom's wish is more selfless.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to call it selfless, because it's still his mother, but more like I said, not completely is a better way of putting it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says he doesn't need the help. He can rule the world by himself. And he says, there is one boon I would claim from you. Shortly before her death, my mother's soul was forfeited to an unholy demon. Ever since that day, her spirit has been held captive in an infernal netherworld. And notice he doesn't say hell. The title of this video says hell, but he doesn't say hell. In an infernal netherworld, denied her lasting reward. Help me free her, and our account will be settled. Or is one woman's immortal soul beneath the notice of the Sorcerer Supreme? And Doctor Strange agrees.
To be fair, the reason they don't say hell is because there are 6 or 7 different hell dimensions in Marvel.
Right. But I love this part. The next part, though, because all the sorcerers are around, and then the Vishante says, okay, it's been settled. We're going to collapse the temple on you now. You better get the f*** out. I mean, they don't even say, okay, guys, this thing really only has about another hour left before it falls. So you guys are good. No, they're like, run. And they start collapsing the temple on the sorcerers.
The sorceress equivalent of last call. You don't have to go home, but you literally cannot stay here.
You can stay here, but if you don't leave, you will stay here.
Yeah. Here
Okay,
you shall remain for eternity.
That being said, I am going to leave the rest of this up to you guys. I have to go get my daughter from work, so I'm going to stop this on the cover here. All righty. It's going to take me about half an hour there and back. All right. So by all means, you guys read it, right?
Yep. Right.
Okay.
Is there a way we can continue the screen share though? I'm still trying to figure out a way.
If one of you guys can share your screen, then the person who can share, I can share it out to the audience, and you can go.
Yeah, because I can't screen share. I don't know about you, Dom.
Yeah.
Unless you'd be willing to dip out and come back when you're on a computer, that might work.
Well, hold on. Well, I can check to see if I can still screen share. Let's see.
Boom, boom.
To your audience. Okay. Well, actually, I don't have the same capabilities as host. Also as Angleton, because
if you can share your screen with me,
yeah.
If
you share it, Anglintine can select you, so we can keep going as we were.
Sorry about this, guys. I do have to go pick up my daughter. Yep.
It happens.
No, it happens. All right, so if I open Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom Triumph of Torment on my end, and you can share it.
Yeah, if you can select it, then
you
can select you and.
All right, because I did send a link to another resource where Triumph and Torment can be shown. No, and it's safe to use.
All righty.
Yeah, I actually posted it in the private chat.
Only 5 people watching. That's a little disappointing. Yeah, I sent it to the private chat.
All right, let's see if I can.
Oh no, you have to put it here. Yeah, if you can't do it, I'll put the cover up. At least you'll have a visual. Or you just guys, you just can go on about with the conversation here.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I need to bow.
Yeah. Well, I just sent out another link, but I do see the one where you posted from Read Comic Online.
Well,
yeah.
We're trying to get it so you can screen share it though. Try to.
All right, let's see if I can.
Boom. Sorry about this, guys. Technical difficulties. First time we've tried this.
Yep.
All righty. Let's see. No new comments. Mickey Mouse should be Sorcerer Supreme, says Black Spiders. Hello to whomever jumped in. Okay, and why don't we just go on ahead and you guys keep up with the conversation? I understand it's a little inconvenient this time around. We don't have the visuals, but just for good show, you should keep the thing running. Do you want, let's see, we could do, nope.
How's the screen share coming there, Dom? Hello?
We lost Dom?
Oh dear.
Okay, now it's just you, dude.
Hold on.
Alrighty.
All right, still here.
Okay.
What happened?
So, I clicked on the other link I shared from another online resource called Zip Comic, but
no, it has to be shared. You see where on the bottom it says present on your on the StreamYard. That's what you have to share out. But guys, I'll tell you what, just continue the conversation, and I will be right back. All righty?
All righty.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, I'm going to step out. That way your avatars are larger and it presents. If you could do a face, that'd be awesome. But here we go. You guys enjoy.
Don't worry, we'll manage the fort.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, wait, you know what? Actually, I'm not going to dip. I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to turn off the cam because I don't know how long you would have if I stepped out. So
Right.
All right.
That yeah.
Yeah.
All right. But let me grab my copy of Triumph and Torment so I can at least.
Oh, so you're gonna aim your camera at your physical copy.
No, that doesn't work here.
Okay, that's fair.
It's not going to want to. But I do have a copy of Triumph and Torment, specifically the Doctor Strange Epic Collection, volume I think 5. And we
Nice.
let's see if I can get back to the place that we were in the book. And then okay, let me look at the table of contents just so I can remember where we're supposed to be at here. Contents.
Music is magic.
Page 387 is where
That's an
Triumph
analogy.
starts in this version.
Well, find the moment with it, where Age Gang is decides to dip by informing everyone to leave the temple before it crushes them.
Yes, that is where we're at. I just need to flip through and get there.
All right, take your time.
Here we go. Triumph and Torment. Flipping. There's Doom's origin. There's the trial.
Hello.
Still here.
Oh,
Okay. I noticed it's quiet. So yeah, I just went upstairs to put on pants.
I'm flipping through my physical copy of Triumph and Torment to find where we were.
Okay. All righty. Is this going to fall apart because I've got to go?
No, it's fine. I'm just trying to find the page we stopped at where they're.
All righty. Okay.
Where the Vishante are.
Yeah,
I'm bringing down the house on everybody.
Right. I'm curious because I'm reading it off of Read Comics Online, and it's a vertical thing. I have no idea how many pages are in this thing. I got to tell you, so far though, you mentioned it before. I think Mike Mignola was the perfect choice when it comes to this.
Yeah, this was kind of a soft audition for the BPRD verse there.
Yeah, a little bit. Now the only thing I remember him from is a book called like Cosmic War on DC, and I thought
Cosmic Odyssey.
Yeah, thank you, Cosmic Odyssey. He was way too blocky on the covers and everything. I did not like his art back then, but now I've got an appreciation for it. I think these are pretty well. I tried going back there, but I saw the warning my ISP can see my pirate things. Oh, okay.
Let's see.
Anyway, Dominic, have you been able to pull up so you can check it out and read along?
Well, I can repost the other link zip comic. Again.
So you could read and you both can chat. That's basically
right. Yeah, because
I apologize, audience, for this kind of falling apart. I would have said, hey, let's set this up beforehand. I just didn't see it doing this,
Mm.
having this much trouble. Are you there yet, Dalton?
No, I can't find the place where we were. I think I think we'll have to go by Dom's digital copy.
Okay, well,
Find what
by all
page we
means,
were on.
if you have to, do it by memory, just so long as the story keeps going and there's no radio silence on. I mean,
Right.
important.
Yeah. Sorry for the
People are
technical
listening.
difficulties, folks.
People are listening, so we need to keep the chatter, even if you're looking at other things.
In future, we might just push it to 10 when stuff like this happens.
All right,
or push it to like 10 or whenever you get back.
Yeah, all right. Well, I gotta bounce and go get my daughter. Keep the chatter going.
Yeah.
All right, we will.
Dom, have you found our stopping point from earlier, Dom?
Okay, I'll. You know what? I'll do this for you at the very least. And put it to where we left off here, because we're probably about halfway or a bit more than halfway through it.
Yeah, because the trial just finished. The Vishante pieced out, and now it's going to cut to years later when Doom is looking to BTFO Mephisto.
For a long time, the Mystic watched the remains of the temple settle into dust. Only then do those assembled drift apart. And that's where you're leaving off. They're in Doom's ship. With that, I've got to go get my daughter. I will talk to you in about half an hour.
Yep. Dom?
Oh, crap.
Did you?
All right.
Did you find?
I'm still here.
Okay. Did you find the stopping point?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, it's probably the graphic novel. That was on page. Oh, dang. But I do know where we stopped on the page. It's essentially Stephen Lang arriving in Latveria.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, there's the many years or the several years later time skip thing.
Yeah, which is actually rather a smart usage of that instead of being used haphazardly as done by most of today's creators.
Mm-hmm. If I recall correctly, there's something very particular about the date it's on. I'm going from memory though, so I don't remember what mystically significant day Doom tries to fight Mephisto on every year.
Midsummer.
Okay, so yeah, I was gonna say Midsummer, but I thought it might have been Walpurgisnacht for a second there. But yeah, so
no, it's Midsummer's Eve.
Yeah, every Midsummer's Eve, Doom tries to go into Mephisto's hell dimension and force him to relinquish his mother's soul. Usually, it doesn't go well because Doom gets too arrogant and Mephisto one-ups him, and that's why he calls Strange in as backup, essentially.
Oh yeah, and well after the two of them arrive back in Latveria, Stephen gets a sense of of the land, of the lay of the land, the people, and when he witnesses a young girl giving a couple of flowers to Victor, he can tell that.
As usual, despite the fact that he's an egomaniacal dickhead, Doom does do right by his people and is actually managing to make the utopia work.
Which showcase on why he is a rather perfect representation of the lawful evil alignment of morality.
Well, and this is yet another case of actually seeing the complexities of Doom, and this story is why, even though Doom respects very few people in the Marvel Universe, Stephen Strange is one of the few that he does respect. Largely because of this exact story. Anyway, moving forward. Strange.
So we're going to do.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we go to Doom's castle. So Stephen is treated well by one of Victor's servants, and after encountering how the people interact with Doom and vice versa, he he recognizes that there are layers to Victor, and the servant like backs him up like by sharing with him of the Victor's family history, especially what Latveria was like before he took over.
Yeah. Long story short, Doom's family are totally not gypsies, but gypsies,
They are
and
gypsies.
and Latveria was a clusterfuck prior to Doom ascending to the throne.
Well, I mean, he led a coup, really.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also like in that time, like we witnessed like how his mom and dad like met each other, which because of the environment, what environment Latveria was, which yeah, it was cluster F. She, Mrs. Von Doom, like made a bargain with Mephisto.
Cynthia
Thank you, Cynthia. She made a bargain,
with
and
Mephisto.
yeah, and of course, like it was like with if you make a deal with Mephisto or any demon, really, there's always a price within that pact.
Yeah, and as per usual, the classic "you didn't read the fine print" thing happens, and he owns her soul, etc., etc., and so on. Doom swears vengeance because, well, that he's Doom. Doom do that a lot, and so the periodic every year on Midsummer's Eve, when the dimensional planes are properly aligned, he goes into hell, tries his damnedest to out trick or outplay Mephisto. He doesn't manage it, which. Side note: the one aspect of this story that does kind of bother me is among all of Marvel's devil characters, Mephisto is the most paper tigery. So it kind of does flummox me that Mephisto of all the demonic entities that Cynthia could have made a deal with, and then Doom would have struggled to redeem her from. It does bother me that the the demon that manages to get the best of Doom for some reason is basically the pantomime rent devil of the Marvel universe. Um,
That's
I,
true.
I I've gone into detail in the Agatha All Along videos that me and Eglantine did about why I don't particularly respect Mephisto the character in Marvel very much, and that's because there are dozens of devil characters who are so much more intimidating and so much less of a joke than Mephisto, and I don't understand the average person's fixation with Mephisto in the MCU either. Because to me, characters like Cathan, characters like Shimagorath, characters like Satanish, characters like Nightmare and the Fear Lords, all of these devil characters are easily able to beat up Mephisto and take his lunch money, metaphorically speaking. So it does flummox me for the sake of the story that the demon Doom of all people has an issue with is again the emo theater kid of Marvel's devil characters.
Oh yeah, and I gotta say, like when rereading like Triumph and Torment after Cynthia like made her deal with Mephisto, so well, it goes well as might expect. Like the villagers, like they started dropping like flies, and like to rub further salt into the wound, Cynthia ends up being wounded.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Mephisto lays claim to her soul in the afterlife. Hence the grudge that Doom keeps relating to Mephisto.
Mm-hmm. Well, after that, like we are treated well. We are treated whether a retelling telling of Victor's origins. It was like how like what happened to him like after his birth, like how when he started to like become like a Renaissance man of both science like and magic. Him going to America, him meeting Reed, and so on and so forth.
The
Eventually, it leads
grudge
to
that
him.
begins the hate boner that Doom has for the Fantastic Four and Reed in particular.
Yeah, and after he masters both science and sorcery, he comes back like with his newly acquired armor, like from the Mystic Order,
Yeah,
And goes
which we saw at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah, he
Moving
confronts
along.
Boris, like the former leader of Latveria. Put him 6 feet under and made himself the new ruler of Latveria.
Yeah. And unlike most dictators, Doom actually has the skills necessary to actually make the utopia work. Which it
Which
is
makes him an
always
example of a benevolent dictator.
it is always funny to me that yes, we mock Doom for being egotistical, especially towards the beginning of this episode, because Doom's egotism really does bite him in the ass a lot. Despite that, he has to necessarily have quite a lot of skills. Like, he has to be able to back up a lot of this, because literally no one else in human history has ever been able to make the benevolent dictator thing actually work. But Doom manages to.
Oh yeah, but in this case, I do like take someone to the spot where he will perform his ritual of entering hell. And also, both him and Steven can confront Mephisto once they arrive. A demon army surrounds them, and the two of them proceed to knock each of them to the curb before Mephisto makes his grand entrance.
Because somebody has to make sure he has a dramatically appropriate entrance. You see what I mean about Mephisto being the emo goth kid, the theater brat of the Marvel demonic underworld.
Oh
He
yeah,
is such a petty little bitch sometimes.
yes he is. And after he's done making his dramatic entrance, he calls Steven a dude, for even going to hell. But he knew this day would come, with him and Victor facing off each other again. But Steven tells Mephisto that he is no one's dupe, and his reaction, as you might expect, and, you demand by your right to come here and get your mom's soul back from me. And he responds essentially dropping them down to another level of hell.
Mm-hmm. Or this hell, anyway, because like I said earlier, there are 7 or 8 different hell dimensions of the Marvel universe, and as per my my sort of poo-pooing of Mephisto's is kind of the lamest one.
Yeah, you got that right.
He
So,
he's not very creative with how he runs his particular hell as compared to the other demonic heavyweights of the Marvel universe.
nope. So, but Stephen and Victor were able to dig themselves out of the underground pit and when Mephisto placed them in, went back up, confront the guy, and of course, after they got through battling some demonic crows, Mephisto wanted acting all intimidated, just unleashes onto Victor.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Steven on the other hand, he's left behind. Well, not
Mm-hmm.
exactly left behind, but yeah, Victor's not really giving him a helping hand, even though he went to him, to assist Victor and
he's
get into
basically
hell and save
using
Cynthia.
he's basically using Strange, or at least trying to use Strange as a crash test dummy or a human shield. He's basically
Hmm.
forcing Strange to take on everything Mephisto can throw at them, so that he, Doom, can go looking for his mother's soul and hunt for a weakness that he can backstab Mephisto with.
Yeah,
Which is somewhat
while that's
predictable because
happening,
Doom is Doom and Doom is an arrogant twat. But yeah,
yeah.
he's basically trying to use Strange as a human shield.
And, oh yeah. Well, in the meantime, Steven is falling from the edge of a cliff, so he is transported back to his time as a surgeon before he had his accident. And briefly, he was confused. He's feeling on how he got here, but then he started to live the moments of the man that he was. Which led to the accident, which caused nerve damage in his hands, and caused him to
Yeah,
to stop doing his practice.
it's basically Mephisto trying to trap Strange in his personal hell, which of course is repeating the accident all over again.
Yep. But of course, the joke's on Mephisto because like he's no longer the man that he was because that accident actually humbled him.
Yes. And again, this is I guess what you could call it a theme or a running motif in this story. The difference between Doom and Strange is Strange actually learned the lesson that he was supposed to learn. Doom is stubborn enough that the entire universe could try to force his hand into being a better person, and he simply wouldn't take it.
Yeah. While that's happening, and like Mephisto and Victor are just watching this, and Victor tells Mephisto that he may like use that type of spell to try to break Steven, which in case yeah, in this case, well no he is not going to be broken, Steven that is. And Victor proclaims that he's not going to be broken like under Mephisto's spell, but of course he throws in Cynthia's soul. Oh, Victor tries to grab it, and it just slips through him quite literally like water.
Yes, because Mephisto is essentially taunting him. Although it is worth noting that this is probably the moment when Doom, at least, I don't know if this is the origin of when Doom came to respect Strange, but it's certainly the first time we see any indication of him demonstrating that he has any sort of respect for Strange. And
Yeah.
the admitting that Strange will not break under Mephisto's illusions is at least a grudging level of respect that Doom has for Strange, and that's rare when you consider that Doom basically doesn't respect anyone but himself most of the time.
hmm Oh, Amanda is saying, and like, utopias aren't that much different than dystopias to me. And he recently said, "Doesn't Marvel go back and forth on whether or not he is a devil?"
Well, this is the thing. This is the Marvel cosmology point I was making earlier. There are several characters who each take on different aspects of the devil. Um, Cathan, you have sort of the ancient origin of evil, or the ancient sort of dark god of evil. Shimagorath, you get the more Lovecraftian overtones of a devil-like character. Satanish takes on most of the like Old Testament serious biblical versions of the devil motif. Um, and then you've got Nightmare and the rest of the Fear Lords like Despair and so on, taking on the entity who parasitically feeds off of fear and or evil, to grow
hmm
more powerful aspect of the devil. That's why I kind of find Mephisto to be the most boring and basic bitch of all the Marvel's devil characters, because really the only aspect of the devil motif that Mephisto has is the trickster deal maker version of the devil, and even then, um, it's not unusual to have Satanish or Dormammu or Cathan making those sorts of deals. It's just that Mephisto is the most how to put it. I guess the best way of putting it is he's the most like folkloric devil of the bunch, and that's why I was mocking Mephisto earlier as the pantomime rent devil, because there are so many more large scale devil characters in the Marvel universe who realistically are more like a serious version of the devil, whereas Mephisto is almost more cartoonish most of the time.
Yeah, I
Like
got that right.
yeah, he plays the role of the devil, but that's exactly it. He wants people to see him in the role of the devil, but he doesn't really have the depth or the darkness or the power or the gravitas to actually convincingly be the devil to anyone other than the idiots who are stupid enough to make deals with him.
All right. Well, in the meantime, back then, like before Marvel decided to retcon retcon like Damien Hellstrom's on origins, like his old man like was the devil and not a demon even like
Yes,
masquerading as the devil.
I mean, there's a reason why they call Damien Hellstrom's father Satanish, and that's probably
Yeah.
because they couldn't get away with just saying Satan, because well,
Right?
we have to pander to the Abrahamic religions at some point because most of our readership is, and therefore we can't straight up make the devil a villain in our story, which
Would
to
would
me
you
doesn't make much
rather
sense when you consider that as long as they're portraying the devil as evil, you would think most most people who believe in the Abrahamic religions would be fine with that. But then
right?
again,
And
I suppose the logic there is Damien Hellstrom is demon spawn and a good guy, so you can't quite make the argument that that would require you to say something akin to, well, demonic power can sometimes result in good things, which I guess is why they changed it around. But yeah, more to the point, Satanish, the father of Damien Hellstrom and Satana, is more akin to the serious biblical version of the devil than Mephisto, who is more like the cartoonish red imp on the shoulder that you'd see in old cartoons kind of thing. And that's
and
why
you say more,
and that's why I find Mephisto to be the most pathetic and boring of all the devil characters in Marvel.
and you see like more of that like, in here in Triumph of Torment because after Steven was able to break out of the spell that Mephisto like placed inside of him like he got broke out of the pocket dimension, finding out the demons, he went out to look for Victor, and he finds Victor almost being thrown into the fire by little imps.
Which again, I wish they had chosen a different demon for Cynthia to sell herself to, because it kind of flummoxes me that Victor Von Doom, the person who manages to steal cosmic entities' powers on the regular, like he steals the powers of the Beyonder, he's stolen the powers of the Galactus before, he's stolen the powers of various different cosmic entities. But for some reason, the lamest devil in the roster of devil characters that Marvel has manages to one up him somehow.
Well, after Steven were able to get the demons like off of Victor, like he went in to check on him to see if he could hear him, if he needs help through healing spells. He gets shot, and he expressed genuine remorse for doing this because he actually like made the bargain of bringing Steven to Mephisto.
But basically, he went to Mephisto and went, "Hey, I will see to it that Stephen Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, is trapped here, and you can have his soul if you give me my mother's soul back and allow her to ascend properly." In other
Mhm.
words, Victor Von Doom, however lawfully, is being a treacherous little bitch.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as a result of the bargain that he made, Mephisto like brings in Cynthia, like restores her soul like in a little golem which transforms into her, and as a reader at the time, they actually witness Victor shedding a tear of seeing his mother.
Yes. The problem is that the golem body that Mephisto made for her is born of the material of his hell dimension, and so it can't leave. Hence
Mm-hmm.
the hence the trick that Mephisto is pulling, the but you didn't read the fine print, etc.
Yeah, but of course, like even like with Cynthia's resurrection, and well, she learns like that Victor like made a bargain where essentially he exchanges Steven's life for hers. She pretty much rebukes and tell him no, like, this is wrong.
But basically, if anyone's seen the episode of Ben 10 Ultimate Alien where Charmcaster exchanges all the souls in Ledger Domain with Dagon to bring back Spellbinder, and then Spellbinder goes, "How could you do this? You know, how has my child become an evil tyrant? The very same kind of evil tyrant we used to be fighting." That's the same kind of thing that happens here. Um, Victor gets his mommy's soul back, and then his mother goes, "No son of mine could possibly be so evil that they would be willing to trade an innocent man's life for mine." And then, of course, Doom is, horrified and remorseful because, his mother is calling him out for basically turning into a tyrant, which, I
Yeah,
mean, that was
yeah.
probably going to happen sooner or later, no matter how they got her soul back, because, well, Doom may not like to hear it, but he is very much a bad guy. Not the worst guy,
Oh
but
yeah.
he is definitely among the ranks of the villains.
Oh yeah. Well, after Cynthia, they like pretty much like gave a calling the old man out moment, or in this case, calling out her son moment. Like
Yeah,
she turns back into
the
the
no
stone,
boy of
and the
mine
soul.
is going to be trading souls for my own sake, etc.
Yeah, yeah. So like she turns back to the stone. No, after her soul goes back to Mephisto. No, and Mephisto, he's pretty much just gloating, only at the fact that and what Victor would try to do ended
The
up like blowing up on his face. He's
yeah,
just savoring like the trolling.
the problem, of course, is Cynthia willingly consigned herself for the sake of her son and for Stephen Strange without any self-interested motive, and that means that Mephisto technically loses the right to her soul because she willingly consigned herself to enslavement for the sake of another.
Yeah, which is more selfless from her than Victor. Of
Yeah.
course, like after when is seeing like Victor like being brought down to that state by Mephisto, he's immediately enraged and breaks out of his icy prison.
Mhm.
Well, anything would happen because as Mephisto thought like he had the upper hand on both men, and like they proceed to beat the living crap out of him.
Yeah, because as I pointed out periodically throughout this video, Mephisto is the rent-a-devil of the Marvel Universe.
Yes, but even then, with Mephisto, he is not a child of it, and he starts to hit back at the two with everything he has.
The problem is an innocent woman's soul consigned itself to his keeping willingly and with no thought to self-interest, and, well, that means that Mephisto loses right to her soul, and then her soul is elevated in an aura of sanctified light, which Mephisto can't tolerate. And so we get to see him do his whole "the light, it burns no" thing.
Oh yeah. Well, like at this moment, well, like as Mephisto is unleashing like hellfire as well as other demonic magics like onto the two men. Like the two of them are currently like protected like by the shields. But Stephen, he does come up with a plan by calling upon the Vishante, like, he calls for them to channel their powers like onto to the blasphemed, in this case, Cynthia.
Mhm.
And as shown, like, with through the power through the Vishanti's powers as well as Cynthia's purity, like they're able to essentially they're able to like incapacitate Mephisto like as they break out of him.
And here again, I want to draw attention to this. I think it would have made a lot more sense if um, Cynthia had sold her soul to Cthon instead of Mephisto, because the powers of the three Vishanti are explicitly the counterpart and the opposite number to Chthon's powers. Chthon being, of course, the demon god who wrote the Darkhold. I think this story would have gone a lot better and would have made a lot more in universe sense had she sold her soul to Chthon, and therefore it would have been Chthon that Doom would have had trouble defeating, which would have made a lot more sense and would have made this Hail Mary of channeling the Vishante's power make a lot more sense, because it's explicitly supposed to be the light side counterpart to Cthan's powers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Most definitely. Yeah, no, but thanks to like Cynthia's assistant. This is because like she rejected like what Victor did in order to get her back. Now like her soul has been redeemed.
Yeah, she willingly sacrificed herself for the sake of an innocent soul, without any expectation of reward or repayment, and that was a selfless enough act that the bonds that Mephisto holds over her break. And so, big damn, holy light, happy ending, etc.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and of course, like he does after Mephisto like was given a good butt whooping, like he pretty much expunged like Stephen and Victor like out of like his part of hell.
Because he's a bitter loser who is annoyed by any reminder that he's a loser.
Oh yeah. Well, Stephen like he tries to console Victor, but he brushes him off and asks Boris like who like he made into his servant, well like tell him to arrange transportation for Stephen and have him go back to America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's just about the end of the story, I do believe.
I mean, almost. But Boris like he did bring up a good point about Victor. Like he could have betrayed Stephen to Mephisto like any time he wanted, but he didn't. Good. And at first, like Steven thought, like he could have planned this. When Boris said, "Perhaps I should have seen that the master would want more than simply to rescue his mother. He would want to win free and clear, beholden to no one. From what you have said, he has. He owes you nothing, and his mother's soul is free. His dreams of conquest will continue, and, for now at least, his soul remains his own."
Yeah.
Which is very much a roundabout way of saying, even though he didn't plan this whole thing, he was able to get Cynthia out of Mephisto's clutches, and her soul like, was redeemed.
Yes. Unfortunately, Doom apparently learned nothing from his mother's sacrifice or the holy sanctification of the Vishante or anything. And this is why Dr. Doom will continue being Doom, and why Stephen Strange is the better sorcerer, because he actually learned something from his character arc, whereas Victor refuses to ever let himself be taught anything.
Yeah, and well, after this story ended, like the last page actually showcases like aged Genghis like witnessing it through his third eye. Nice, and so it goes. A soul long in torment has found her salvation, and Doom lives on with a triumph and torment of his own. And his assistant asks him, "On one, I do not understand. Perhaps you were not meant to. True understanding comes in a moment's flash, but only after years of labor. Study diligently, and you may come to understand. In a century or so. For now, acolyte, I would be fed. I hunger. Yes, exalted one, as you wish." And that's
In other
ends the
words,
story.
yeah. In other words, Doom continues down his path of destruction. Strange presumably takes yet another lesson from this, and both of them, and this is the good thing, both of them grow to respect each other from this. And honestly, I've always preferred Doom and Strange's relationship to Strange's relationship with Tony Stark. I don't particularly like the facial hair bros thing, especially because if you look at the original context of the facial hair bros thing, it's literally Stark mocking Strange.
Yes.
Whereas with this, because of the fallout of this story, they continue to demonstrate how much respect Doom has for Strange, however begrudging it is, because of course Doom doesn't like complimenting anyone but himself, if he can feasibly avoid it.
Yeah, knowing who he is, like the man is pride is huge, and refuses to be humbled and achieve temperance.
And ironically, it is that very same egotism and that very same "I must be good at all the things" impulse that leaves him to be inferior technologically and scientifically to Reed Richards, and inferior wisdom-wise and sorcery-wise to Stephen Strange.
Mm-hmm. It's my story. Stories like how it did. At the end, it did get a chuckle out of me as Ace Genga is saying, "Okay, now I'm hungry. Hey, let's eat."
Well, I mean, the man's several thousand years old at this point, and he's ancient. He probably is more akin to the retiree going, "Enough of this shit, I'm hungry."
But nonetheless, your point still stands as the fact that two men do achieve not only an understanding but respect each other, as fellow practitioners of the mystic arts.
I think obviously Strange is a lot more forthcoming about his respect for Doom than Doom is about Strange, because again, Doom refuses to compliment anyone but himself if he can feasibly avoid it. But I think it is worth noting that despite all of the times that Strange has fallen out of favor with Vishante and lost the title of Sorcerer Supreme, and not to mention a considerable proportion of his power, we've never seen Doom take over the role of Sorcerer Supreme. Now, part of that might be because, as we went into earlier, he splits his genius between technology and science and magic and sorcery, but it also might be, I'm not sure if the writers are smart enough to pick up on this in today's day and age, but it also might be because Doom respects Strange enough that he doesn't want to fill his chair while Strange restores himself. I think
Mm-hmm.
assuming a level of continuity that the modern day writers simply can't manage because they're dumb, I assume that the reason why Doom always hangs back and refuses to take the title of Sorcerer Supreme for himself, even when Strange is incapacitated, is because he respects Strange well enough to know, and he knows Strange well enough to know, that no matter how many times he gets knocked down, he will get back up again, and so there's no point in him trying to take the role of Sorcerer Supreme. Now, granted, it must be said that most of the people they try to replace Strange with as Sorcerer Supreme don't deserve it on their own merits, because the writers seem to basically have literally anyone who's popular at the moment and that is vaguely mystical be able to take over the role of Sorcerer Supreme when it's convenient for them. But I choose to see Doom not getting the title as Doom, however indirectly, acknowledging that Strange will bounce back. Granted, that shouldn't need to happen as often as it does, because the Strange fucks up and loses all his powers and knowledge shit, and has to re-earn his character development shit, is far more overused than it should be. But I think it is worth telling that for all the times that the chair of Sorcerer Supreme has been vacant, Doom has never even once tried to fill it because he respects Strange.
Well, yeah, very, very much. Even if you won't say it out loud.
Yeah. His actions and the way his character is written, when his character is written in character anyway, imply that the reason Doom doesn't, or to use an example, the reason why Doom didn't take the title away from Brother Voodoo when Brother Voodoo became Dr. Voodoo for a bit, which is equally stupid because the Doctor part doesn't go with the title of Sorcerer Supreme, but whatever the fuck, is because...
Well, again, this is usually just on a side note. Well, again, that was Bendis, and one of his known characteristics is not doing the dang research and refuses to do so in order to respect continuity and have consistency with each character.
Yeah, unfortunately, that particular failing has metastasized to basically the entire industry at this point. But what I was going to say is I think it's worth noting that Doom didn't show up and go, my sorcery skills are better than yours, so I'm gonna take it. I think it might be because he has a personal amount of respect for Stephen Strange, and he knows somewhere in his ego that whatever trials might befall Stephen Strange, he'll bounce back sooner or later.
Oh yeah, and now about the new NK, I read your comments. I was hearing a dog barking. That's one of my aunt and uncle's dogs, and right now he's just relaxing at the moment. After well, I did send him out to the backyard earlier. But in the meantime, he's just relaxing. But before that, now you brought up the comment of Squirrel Girl beating Dr. Doom through her squirrels. And I know she's supposed to be a mixy fourth wall breaking character and all that, but still, always struck me funny. Which
Yeah,
I
no,
had to ask you, Dalton, like, what's your take on that? Because this was established years ago before not just Marvel, but entertainments like Fall from Grace when it was being infiltrated by the activists and the SJ hobos.
it's insufferable in the extreme. The same way as Riri flying to Latveria and uh, trying to depose Doom from the position he lawfully occupies, thing bothers me. It bothers me on several levels. Level one is, of course, that should not happen, for Doom should dispense with her in the space of like 5 seconds. But moreover, it shouldn't have even been an option in the writer's head to begin with, because Squirrel Girl defeating Thanos with squirrels is one thing, especially because it's well established that Thanos has a self-hatred thing where he conspires at his own destruction most of the time. But defeating Doom with squirrels, it's insufferable, and it shows how little respect they have, not only for continuity but also for the characters themselves and the world they're operating in. But this is not new. The social justice types will always do that because they actually consider meritocracy to be a harmful, childish delusion that they have to deprogram people from.
Not just that, but also like objectivity, objective truth, and everything, because it's pretty much a repellent to them.
Yeah, because they actually consider those concepts to be at best fictional, at worst immoral. But
Right?
that's neither here nor there.
Neither Yeah, but what we can't say about Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom, Triumph and Torment is, well, the reason why it's a timeless classic, because you can tell, I mean, with Roger Stern, he's been working with Marvel for decades. And of course, he has done like other projects as well outside of Marvel. But it shows how much he's able to utilize what he had learned over the years of working with these characters and apply them into a new story, in this case, in the graphic novel format.
And I mean, I don't think we focused much on the dialogue as we should have, but it must be said that this is how these characters should both be written, because both of these characters are very old world and very much reliant on intellectual gravitas. Um, whereas most of the time when you write characters today, you get like millennial or Zoomer speak, and that's about it. Because they don't seem to understand, or well, I guess it reminds me of an old writing adage. You have to be at least as smart as your characters, or at least you have to be fairly smart to write a character who's smarter than you. Um, and even characters who are dumber than you, to convincingly portray a character as dumb in a way that's not insufferable. You have to be pretty smart to understand the minds of dumb people. The quintessential example of the latter there is probably Patrick Star in the earlier seasons of SpongeBob as compared to Patrick Star in the mid to late seasons of SpongeBob. In the first case, he was portrayed as dumb, but there was a method to his stupidity. There were ways of thinking that led him to his wrong conclusions. Whereas now,
Yeah.
you can't write these writers cannot write characters who are either dumber than themselves or smarter than themselves, because they are the very definition of overly educated midwits. And this is a periodic reminder that education is no substitute for actual intelligence. It can teach you how to optimize the intelligence you already have if it is a well-structured educational system, which, aside from anything else, we don't have in today's day and age to begin with. But that is all education can do. It can refine your capacity for intelligence. It cannot grant intelligence to the otherwise midwit,
Despite
what they may think. Yeah. Okay.
To briefly go back to Patrick. Well, well, he was like average intelligence, like at best, and he was dumb, but he was not an idiot, not a complete idiot, because like he is capable of making some not very intelligent, but some good thinking, but
Yeah,
he will at least admit that he's wrong on something.
But much like Ed from Ed, Edd n Eddy, the single D Ed, his stupidity would sometimes, or his odd way of looking at the world would sometimes present solutions that the otherwise more intelligent characters couldn't think of, just because the stupidity didn't come from like clinical R-word syndrome. It came from the way he connected things being unorthodox. But sometimes that very same unorthodoxness could render him stupid sometimes, but also strangely insightful at other times. And
which is funny because like he throws the thing keeping it simple with Ed, like he is keeping it a simple stupid, and this also ties into his like incredible knowledge like of horror, because with
and
Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom Triumph and Torment, like that can be applied like in this context.
And the same is very much true of highly intellectual characters like Doom and Strange. In order to convincingly write characters who are supposed to be geniuses, you at least have to have the intellectual capacity to put yourself in the mindset of someone who is A, different from you, which is hard enough with modern day writers, but B, who thinks in a more grand way than you. This is why when you write a smart character badly, it comes off as cringe. Because when you write a smart character badly, it's just how many big words can I throw in to say this very simple concept. But when you write a smart character well, you can understand where the character is coming from, even if you're not the type of person who tends to browse the thesaurus on random impulse. Which, yes, I'm aware, I very much am guilty of the $5 word syndrome. But the difference is I actually know how those words are to be used. Whereas midwit writers who try to write characters as geniuses basically just usually wind up giving their characters meta-awareness, because that's the only way they know to give a character greater intelligence than they have. By basically letting their characters read ahead in the script of the comic is the only way midwit writers seem to know to make their characters seem intelligent, by simply saying their intelligence grants them knowledge that they realistically shouldn't have. Whereas good writers actually can lay out, okay, this character is supposed to be a genius, so how do we get them from point A of this question to point Z of this solution in a way that at least seems plausible?
Well, in the case is of like how Roger Stern and Mike Mignola, like went about portraying these various mystics.
Yeah,
And yeah, he was able. They were able to make each of them distinct from one another, especially in this gathering that happens like once every 100 years. There's like
yeah,
you actually witness.
because God forbid different characters should operate differently. That's another force of modern day writing that is the scourge of creativity. They can't seem to realize that characters are different characters and therefore should sound and act and think differently from one another.
Yeah, well,
Well, then
nowadays
you
they
mention the dialogue. Well, I will say like this briefly. Well, like just you mentioned the dialogue. Like I appreciate how like Stern and the other writers that took part in this. Like one of them being Bill Mantlo. Well, they helped establish like each of the other mystics of the world like distinguishable characteristics as well as inflections like in how they
Yeah,
communicate with each other.
they are different not only in their individual characters, because obviously, but also in the way they think and act and speak, which modern day writers cannot manage to save their lives.
modern day writers just write themselves into the books anymore, except for the ones who have been around for a while. They at least try. So how far did you get? Did you talk through the entire story?
Yeah, we got through to the end.
That's cool. That is cool. And now you're doing your final thoughts. Is this what's going on here?
Yep.
Well, we were waiting for you so we could wrap it up and stuff. But we started comparing and analyzing the various ways in which Triumph and Torment is such a good story as compared to modern day stories, which are not worth the paper they are printed on most of the time.
And they also date themselves like spoiled milk.
Yeah, they do. They're very modern. You know?
They usually date themselves the very first day they're published, because people who live in this art school bubble are so out of touch that they don't even know what the average man on the street thinks anymore, let alone the extraordinary man on the street, like superhero characters are supposed to be.
We talked about. I spoke a little before we left. I think the art is excellent. I do agree with you. I think they gave separate voices to each character, and that's just the way it should be. Doctor Strange should not sound like Doctor Doom. Unfortunately, you do get this a lot, and it works if it's a movie. You watch a Woody Allen movie, and everybody is talking like Woody Allen. All the dialogue.
But it's the job of the actor to sell.
The actor makes it their own, so it doesn't sound like everybody's talking like Woody Allen. You get that a lot in modern day books. Unfortunately, I didn't get to the hell part, so I can't speak on that.
I mean, if you want to run through it quick, we can always pick up.
We're good. This is an hour and 38-minute show already, and sorry I had to bow out early, but it's
that's all right.
Let me finish, and then I'll throw it back to you guys. The thing is, after the show, I am going to finish this book. It was just that intriguing to the lead up, the part that from the very beginning all the way up to the destruction of the temple. That's as far as I got, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And this book is that intriguing that I want to continue the story, even though basically homework done, man. The school assignment is finished. The teacher's grading it. I would like to see this expand. So please, ladies and gentlemen, share the video out after it's done as well, because at least let's get the numbers into double digits as we're watching.
Like I said at the top, this is probably the best standalone Doctor Strange story that the character was ever included in, and honestly, it even works pretty well as a Doctor Doom story. So if you are unfamiliar with Doctor Strange, there are three stories that I would recommend for you for those who aren't familiar with Doctor Strange. This is the first of them. The second is Doctor Strange into Shambhala, which is another standalone graphic novel.
That's
And the
yeah.
third is actually the secondary run of Strange Tales, which was a combo book that Strange shared with Cloak and Dagger, because that is the first. The reason I say that one, not the Oath, apart from the reasons I've already gone into as to why I hate the Oath with a passion. But the reason I suggest that particular run of Strange Tales, the 80s run of Strange Tales, is because it is the first story where Strange's humility actually, to some degree, becomes a self-destructive desire for self-destruction or self-sacrifice, and it is the first story where Strange is forced by circumstance to delve into the darker magics and has to lose his power accordingly because the Vishante disown him. And unfortunately, that story was so good that has become the only story anyone knows how to tell with Doctor Strange anymore. And despite my annoyance with that, it is worth noting, as with most of these storylines that get stuck in a character's time loop, basically, the first instance of it was a masterfully written good book, and that's why so many people, I think, try to copy it so much. But yeah, those are the three books that I would recommend to anyone who's unfamiliar with Doctor Strange that wants to get into Doctor Strange. Triumphant Torment, Into Shambhala, and the 80s version of Strange Tales, which he shared with Cloak and Dagger.
Okay.
We may very well visit some of those in the course of Tales from the Long Box if we do this long enough.
Well, yeah, we've got months of stuff already chosen.
Yep.
So next week for the homework assignment, kids, if you guys want to get in on the chat, we are going to a run of comic books that got buried by Marvel that are better than a lot of people remember. And it's kind of got a cult following. It's the Ultraverse from the 1990s, early 2000s. We're going to be talking about a book. Whoops, I put it in the. Meant to put it in the overlay. I put it in the background. Let me change that here. But we're going to be talking about a book called Rune, the first 4 issues. This is back when 4 issues would have actually been a full story. They started making it 6 when everybody started writing for the trade. But we're going to be going through Rune issues 1 through 4, and should be fun. I'm looking forward to this one. This is one I actually don't remember very well. I was more into Nightman and Strangers and Mantras.
Yeah, Dom picked next week's book. Yep. This obviously was my pick for the first round of Tales from the Long Box. I believe what is your next one, E, after Rune? What is your next one?
It's Dick Tracy, True Hearts and Tommy Guns, which was released during in 1990 when the movie was released. The first 2 issues of Dick Tracy, True Hearts and Tommy Guns is all about the rise of Big Boy Caprice, played by Al Pacino in the movie. And the last chapter is kind of like the movie adaptation. So it makes this one whole arc. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommend it.
Black Spiders, Mantra is on the list. I think that was Dom's second pick, if I can remember correctly.
It's about 3rd or 4th. So what we got coming up is we've got Dick Tracy. We got Rune and then Dick Tracy, and then yours was Dylan Dog.
Yes.
And the first appearance of Dylan Dog. And then Dom was Camelot 3000, and then Dark Admiral, I believe, was the one that suggested Kill or Be Killed, an Ed Brubaker story. And I suggested Fallen Angel, the DC run. It's Peter David's, it's his sequel to Supergirl. He was kicked off the Supergirl title in the 2000s. And so he created this independent comic book called Fallen Angel, where she's basically Supergirl. And he tells the story that he wanted
to tell. This is the story I would have told if they hadn't kicked me off, basically.
It's amazing. I hope we can get to the Dark Horse stuff. But at first, we're going to start off with that. And then we have, Camelot 3000 is going to be the first 6 issues. Because I don't want to, unless we can figure out a way to do 12 issues, maybe we just do a discussion.
Yeah, we need to. Yeah, we need to break this up into more doable
Yep.
portions.
Then we've got Spider-Man Fever, Mantra, Shadow Man from Valiant, Devil Dinosaur from Jack Kirby, Dial H for Heroes, the first appearance in the 1960s. Then we've got Oz, Gathering of Heroes, the Elongated Man's first appearance, or no, the Elongated Man from the 1980s, and then Books of Magic. So we are booked solid. And by the way, you can interrupt any of this. Go on over to Ko-Fi, drop a $5 donation, and say, "Hey, wait a second, I want you to talk about this book." So long as it's not something along the lines of Jungle Women or Cherry Pop Tart or something like that, or
we can't
book.
We can't do cheesecake quite so much because YouTube is YouTube.
We can't do porn, basically. We can't do. Oh, I'm sorry, corn, because people are afraid to say the word. We can't do butterscotch or something like that. So yeah, and yes, I know all of them. So many great stories out there. It's hard to choose with Black Spiders. It really is. It's one of these things like the cover rankings. The cover rankings, so long as you guys are interested, can go on forever. No Penthouse Comics. Oh, yeah, exactly. This can go on forever as well. I mean, I'm looking at my shelf and thinking I could talk about everything as soon as I'm reading it. Right now, I'm going. What am I reading? The Justice League Midsummer Night, the one that preceded the Grant Morrison run. I picked up 1602. I also and I actually pull out like 2 or 3 books at a time and just go, okay, these are the next 3 I'm going to read. I've got Beauty and the Beast, a story with the Beast and Dazzler from the 1980s. So yeah, I'm thinking, wow, I mean, there's a lot to talk about here. So there's a lot to go over. I think.
I'm looking over at my shelf and like, I can't believe none of us suggested Hellblazer yet, but we could do a whole bunch of that. And I've got most of the omnibuses for the Mike Mignola Hellboy BPRD verse. So
yeah, there's a lot of stuff to go through. And once again, if you want to control the narrative, go on over to Ko-Fi. Links in the description, and just say what's what. I just read the Beauty and the Beast 1 through 4 limited series. Yeah, the one with Beast and Dazzler. Yeah, there you go. Maybe we should bring that. Wow, no Judge Dredd, Secret Wars, Grendel, Warchild. Dude, $5 on Ko-Fi. Links in the
description. Feel free to recommend us stuff, folks.
Yeah. But there you go. Dom, you still around? He went silent.
Oh yeah, I'm still here.
I always figure that's when he goes down to the basement. He can't have us here as victims. Yeah.
You're funny.
It rubs the lotion on its skin, or else it gets the hose.
Yeah. But hey, you know what? Judge Dredd is something that should be put on the. I got the case files a long time ago. I got very, very lucky. Some guy recommended this janky website from China. I didn't know what I was doing, but they literally had CDs with everything. I've got a notebook around here filled with CDs that just have digital comics, and I bought.
Oh, you told me about this.
Yeah, I'm wondering where I put. Oh, hold on just a sec. Yeah. Here's the first part. I've actually got 2 notebooks full of these, and so I have access to damn near everything. This Adventure Comics, like 7 discs of Batman stuff, Clive Barker comics, Cross Gen, Daredevil, Golden Age stuff, the Classics Illustrated, Catwoman, just tons and tons of comics. So I've got access to all of this shit. And one of the books I do have is the Judge Dredd case files with everything. So
nice.
It's
so nice.
Could do all of Conan's books, Book of Thoth, Midnight God, Savage Sword of Conan magazine, Brain Boy, Mighty Samson. I've got all of the Phantom stuff from the beginning all the way up. Yeah.
I've got all of Jack Kirby's run of Etrigan the Demon. I've also got the the Demon from the Darkness book, which was Mickles and
Here you
Mickles
go,
and
Dalton.
Hmm?
Hellboy in complete chronological order.
Although honestly, this is gonna sound heretical here, but I usually prefer the characters other than Hellboy. It's not that I dislike Hellboy; it's just that a lot of his side casts are a lot more interesting to me than he is. Like I especially like the ones that are set in the past when Hellboy was still younger are some of my favorites. Like
Judge Dredd, the Complete Case Files 1 through 19, and it just
All right.
just to fill it out, Judge Dredd, and this is all the other stuff.
I've got the first 5 volumes of the Hellblazer series, so we can do some Constantine eventually as well.
This is actually I only have up until about 2013, and I feel like Eric Breen sometimes, where it's like they didn't even make comic books after 2013. So I mean,
well, unfortunately, that is when the dark times began for the most part.
Well, arguably, well, not really arguably, but well, like the dark times happened in the late 2000s.
Yeah, the some of these didn't come with covers on them, but I got the complete run of Peanuts from the very first strip to the very last one.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is shit. Are you kidding me? I should sell this on the auction.
Are you sure?
Yeah, not in public. No, I would never do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that would be horribly against copyright laws. I would absolutely not do that. I would not do email englentine@gmail.com. I would never freaking do that at all. MediaMadmen1@gmail.com.
You would never resell digital comics in CD form or anything for your own monetary gain.
Not unless they were public domain. Hit me up at Englentine on Twitter. Never do that. Never.
Never.
Yeah.
Anyway, we probably should be calling it at some point here.
Right, it's getting to 2 hours. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So what do we have happening tomorrow? Is what is tomorrow? Tomorrow is it Romita's? No, it's Burns Avengers. John Byrne Avengers covers tomorrow for the cover reading, and on Wednesday it's Romita's Spider-Man, and then we've got the Fantastic Four on Friday. And then, of course, the auction, hopefully, if they send me my books in time, we will see how that goes. I'm not selling my collection anymore. I'm down to the roots. Maybe I should do that. These survived the collection. If they have good shit, buy it. Yep, that is a good philosophy there. That being said, I hope you enjoyed the Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom storyline. I am going to finish this book. Next week is Rune 1 through 4. Please do your homework. Come on back and help us in the conversation. Tell us what you like about it and what you didn't like about it as well. I am such an egomaniac. I noticed that I kept the focus on me. Of course, I'm the only face showing. I am the ugliest of us here, and I'm the only one on camera. There you go. Okay, maybe I was wrong.
I turned my camera off while I was hunting through my epic collection that has Triumph and Torment in it, and I just forgot to switch it back on.
All righty, kids. Thanks for hanging out. Don't forget to do all the clicking, the liking, sharing, and go on over to Ko-Fi.
You know the drill.
Yeah. Go on over to Ko-Fi, drop $1 in the till or $5 and say, hey, talk about this. We'll put it in the rotation after Rune, and yeah, good times. That
Cheers,
being said,
guys.
Thank you very, very much for watching. Have a good night.
See you all later.
Cheers, guys.